$100,000. That number by itself, I think, is kind of hard for us to grasp, considering most people, it's twice their average annual income. But on top of that, it's from a business started by a couple of guys in their 20s less than 2 years ago, and that number gets even harder to grasp. In this video, we're going to dive into how that business was started and how you can apply those same principles to your business. What's going on? My name is Matthew Osborne. I'm happy you're joining me today. We have a super exciting guest on the show that's going to give us a deep dive into how he started an info business that has made over $100,000 a month. This interview is from a podcast I started back in 2016 called The Young and Elite, where I interviewed successful entrepreneurs under the age of 30 to figure out what they were doing that really set them apart from everyone else their age. Then we're going to learn from those people and figure out how we can apply those same things to our lives. If this sounds interesting to you, be sure to subscribe below to be notified when future videos just like this one are released. Alright, so the guest today is named Dave Rogenmoser. Now when this interview took place, I barely knew Dave and he was gracious enough to come on the podcast. Since then, however, I've gotten to know Dave a lot better. Once a year or so, Caleb and I head out to Austin, Texas to hang out with Dave and his team over at the Proof headquarters. We actually recently hosted an Amazon sellers event called Turn the Page over at the Proof headquarters in Austin, Texas. Now here's the cool thing about this interview and why you should listen to it and take detailed notes. When this interview took place, Dave was already a super successful young entrepreneur in his 20s with a thriving info business. Since then, however, he and his business partners launched a software company called Proof. Proof went through the prestigious Y Combinator incubator, and now they offer one of the best softwares available to help companies personalize their websites to their visitors. They're doing even more revenue-wise than when this interview took place. So without further ado, take a pen and paper out, get ready to write down the information Dave shares in this interview, because not only did it help them get to $100,000 a month, it helped them scale past it.
Young and Elite, Episode 4.
Welcome to the Young and Elite Podcast, where your host, Matt Osborne, interviews the world's most elite entrepreneurs under the age of 30. Learn how to become self-employed, gain financial freedom, and live a life on your terms while you're still young. If you want to join the ranks of the Young and Elite, keep listening, because it all starts now.
You are listening to the Young and Elite Podcast, the show that interviews elite entrepreneurs under the age of 30 every Monday and Thursday. Check out the episodes on the go on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, or at the website youngandelite.com. Today, I am proud to introduce to you our guest, Dave Rogenmoser. I've been a subscriber to Dave's email list and a follower of his Facebook page for a while now, and I've learned so much from the value that he shares there. I'm a big fan, Dave, and I'm happy to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
Dude, I'm doing well, and I am really pumped to be here. I love what you're doing. This is some awesome stuff you've got putting out here. So, love the audience. I'm glad to be on here.
We're glad to have you. So, Dave is the founder of themarketresults.com, an online info business that he has built to over $100,000 a month in revenue very quickly. Although what Dave is most proud of is building a business that not only brings together and inspires young entrepreneurs, but also building a business that he and his wife can be proud of. Dave desires to bring a sense of generosity and vulnerability to entrepreneurs worldwide because that's where lasting change happens. Dave, fill us in a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so I live out in Annapolis, Maryland. I'm 27 years old, and I work with two of my best friends. They're my two business partners, and they live here with me. And essentially, what we do now, we've kind of morphed. We've been entrepreneurs for about 2 years now. It was about 2 years ago that we kind of picked all this up and started working. And right now, we really help other businesses and other young entrepreneurs really launch and grow their business through digital marketing. So Facebook advertising, teach them how to run webinars, teaching them basically how to be found online and make sales online.
Nice. So the interviews on Young and Elite have a big focus on beginnings. I do this because I think it's very important for new entrepreneurs like myself and like the listeners to get an understanding of how someone in a similar stage in life took an idea and turned that into a successful business as you have done with your business. So walk us through a little bit how you guys started your current business. How did you and your friends get that going?
Yeah, well, I kind of started by myself initially. I mean, I was actually working for a campus ministry at the University of Missouri, was living in a fraternity there, and I kind of had this itch to become an entrepreneur, but nobody around me was talking about that at all. You know, I'm sure a lot of people listening can relate to that. I didn't really have anyone to talk about this stuff with. Everyone was just kind of working jobs and just kind of trying to climb the corporate ladder, and it just wasn't for me. And so I started reading a couple books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The 4-Hour Work Week, and Think and Grow Rich were the 3 books I picked up that kind of changed everything for me. And all of a sudden I realized I kind of had some people, at least, they were the authors of these books. I didn't know them. But I had somebody that was resonating with the ideas that I was thinking about. And so I ended up meeting my business partner now at a wedding. I was just there, and he was talking about starting some software company. And he said, yeah, I'm learning how to start a software company with no idea, no money. I said, wow, that's amazing. That's what I am wanting to do too. And he said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll send you over some resources and I'll help you do this. And so I kind of started and got my start by basically trying to create a software product, even though I didn't know anything about coding, anything about marketing. I mean, really nothing about business. I just knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I just kind of just plotted my way through it. I ended up building a fraternity recruitment software. And I still don't know how to code or anything like that today. I ended up just hiring somebody on Upwork.com, found them, hired them. I kind of mapped out the actual software plan using just Keynote on my computer. Kind of gave them the design, said, hey, can you make this? And it ended up being kind of a little software for fraternities to use to manage their recruitment. So it all kind of started that way, and that didn't really, work that well. I spent about $10,000 on it. Opened it up for business, had a couple fraternities that were using it, but it really wasn't meeting a need. It really wasn't a good product, but it was a really cheap start, in my opinion. It's kind of a cheap education, a cheap launch into entrepreneurship.
So where did you guys go from there? Were you still by yourself at this point? When did your business partners come on and start the Market Results, the current company that you have?
Yeah. So I started that company by myself and was doing that for maybe 6 or 7 months. I actually was initially working on it with another business partner, a friend from college, just because I was like, I didn't want to do it alone. And so I asked him if he would do it. But found out, that didn't work very well working with this guy, because he was like working another full-time job and just wasn't that interested in it, I suppose. And then, I teamed up with these guys about 2 years ago. This is about, 8 months into my entrepreneurial journey. And that's when we started the Market Results, which, was kind of a cool story. Basically, I realized I needed to learn marketing out of that failure of the fraternity software. So I started reading blogs and staying up late at night. I mean, I was working morning till evening, sun up to sundown, working on trying to figure out how to run Facebook ads, how to do SEO, how to build websites, all that kind of stuff. Because I was like, I need to go sign some clients. And so I just started reaching out to tons of different businesses, like 300 to 500 businesses, personally contacted them, asking if I could take over their marketing. And eventually, with the help of these 2 partners, I was able to start landing some clients, start actually delivering the work. I didn't actually know how to do Facebook ads or AdWords as what we were selling. I didn't know how to do it, but I found other people that did know how to do it. And I kind of just stood in the middle and kind of quarterbacked the whole thing. And ended up, starting the business that way.
Nice. So I see a trend from your first business, your second business, that you like to outsource things. Do you recommend young entrepreneurs that aren't quite sure either how to code or how to do like the marketing or selling on Facebook ads and stuff to figure out how to outsource it? Is that something you think is a good way to start?
Yeah, no, I think it's a really good skill to be able to do. I think there's probably a lot of people that are listening that, they're like, I don't know how to code. I don't know how to do Facebook ads. I don't know how to build websites or whatever. And I didn't either. And it's amazing. There's a lot of people out there that know how to do all that stuff and are willing to do it for really cheap, or they're willing to partner up with you or whatever. I think maybe the more important skill is to know how to sell. And so that's what I would focus on is learning how to sell. I'd read sales books. I would practice. I would, do it in the meet, as I practice these different sales calls and saying, if I can sell, finding a guy to build the website will be easy. The sales part's the hard part. And so, it's a really good way to get going, particularly if you don't know how to do any of that stuff right now.
Yeah. So initially generating revenue in a new business is always the biggest hurdle to jump over. How did you initially begin to make money in your business? Did you just start cold calling clients all off the top of your looking in the address book, or how did you start getting those initial clients?
Yeah, those initial clients, I actually started I wouldn't recommend this now, but I would mail them these packages, and inside the packages, I would put like a little like sales letter that I typed up asking for a free consult or offering a free consult. And then I'd put like a little magnifying glass in there. And these were all like individually typed up deal. I mean, it took forever. It took me about an hour to make each one of these packages. And I would, write the address on there, stamp it, and just walk down to the post office and drop all these things off. And I sent like 350 of these things. And so it took me like 3 or 4 weeks of doing this. And then I'd follow up, all of them after a couple days after they'd gotten it and gotten a chance to check it all out. I ended up getting like 2 clients out of all of that work, which for me was amazing. I was so pumped about that. And that's kind of how we started the train rolling. And then I started, using LinkedIn, just networking a whole bunch of different ways of getting started. But it all kind of started by just doing the really hard route of just reaching out to people and doing cold calls.
I love how you keep talking these different things you were doing, and a lot of times it didn't work out quite the way you thought at first, but you figured out how to adjust from there and make it work. And I kind of show that failure is a huge part of entrepreneurship. They always go hand in hand. And it's tough when you don't have a community around you, other entrepreneurs that are like-minded, like you said, that you can talk to about this kind of stuff. So I know you've got something really big coming soon that I'm excited about called the Entrepreneur Alliance. Talk to us a little bit about that and fill us in on what's coming there.
Yeah, totally. No, this is a new initiative that I'm crazy excited about called the Entrepreneur Alliance. We're opening it up on November 1st here. But essentially, as I've gone through this process, I haven't been an entrepreneur all that long, but a big part of what we've done has just been working with hundreds of young entrepreneurs that are getting started. And I realize it's just freaking tough, right? I mean, like the school system as we know it is failing entrepreneurs every day. Entrepreneurs are not learning the things that they need to actually go out there and be successful. That's kind of the harsh reality that people learn after college is like, man, like I was personally a marketing major and I do digital marketing now. And almost none of what I learned in school is applicable to what I'm doing today. I've had to learn it all on my own. And I think that's just too bad. And I want to be an advocate for young entrepreneurs out there to help make that leap. And so essentially what we're doing is I'm creating the Entrepreneur Alliance, and it's going to be filled with both people that are starting out in entrepreneurship and also kind of seasoned entrepreneurs who I've found as I've talked to entrepreneurs that after they started making money is, the money's good, but they want more for their life. They want that legacy. And so I'm connecting with hundreds of entrepreneurs that are excited about mentoring and giving back to young entrepreneurs. So I'm basically creating a place where we can connect those two people and that young entrepreneurs can get the resources. We're going to pack it full of tons of training videos, not just from me, but from hundreds of other entrepreneurs that are saying, hey, yep, here's my course on Amazon. Here's my course on how to do SEO. Here's my course on phone sales. Then we're going to put it all in the alliance that all the new guys can have kind of all the resources they would need. Basically team up together to make sure that entrepreneurs are thriving, make sure that young entrepreneurs are getting every resource and help that they need to make it. Because I really think that the world is a better place when entrepreneurs are thriving and entrepreneurs can do what they do best.
Yeah, definitely. So is this kind of almost like a mastermind, it seems like, where all these people can come together and talk and share ideas and figure out what works and what doesn't work?
Yeah, exactly. It's a mastermind of sorts. I'd love to have, some live events. We were talking yesterday about how someday we're going to fill football stadiums with the Entrepreneur Alliance and just like how powerful would that be, They're doing it for everything else. I don't see, that happening for entrepreneurs a lot. And I want to change that.
Definitely. It helps so much to be able to have someone you can go to and talk about, someone that's been there and done it before you, especially like you were saying, those more seasoned entrepreneurs being there. I know for myself personally, I didn't have one of those mentors at first. I didn't have one of those people to go to. I was the only entrepreneur that I could talk to. And it was amazing the change that happened when I started reaching out to other entrepreneurs that were where I wanted to be. One of the first people I interviewed on the podcast, he was one of my friends that I reached out to. Well, actually, he wasn't a friend at first. I literally found him one day. I asked him what he did. He said he sold books. His name's Caleb Roth. And I was like, hey, can we just sit down for coffee? And he's like, sure, let's sit down for coffee sometime. We've started a friendship from there. And having that influence is amazing. And so I'm sure that'll happen a lot with this Entrepreneur Alliance.
Yeah.
Just getting all those entrepreneurs together.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. Like I was out, I had some of our kind of most successful clients out to this sweet lake house in Austin a couple weeks ago. And It's amazing. I mean, everyone, had some cool things going in their business and would have been called successful, but everyone was just starving for that relationship with other entrepreneurs. And we're all sitting behind our computers all day and we're all Facebook messaging and whatnot. But like to get in the same room with someone and have like a real vulnerable conversation and maybe even say, hey, you know what? Like, this is hard. I know business looks good on the outside, but it's hard. Like that is such a powerful thing among entrepreneurs. And so I felt that so much at this mastermind in Austin. I was like, man, I think we can create this on a big scale and create it, across, all the different countries, all the different cities and be a connector of entrepreneurs.
Definitely. Yeah. One thing that I've noticed too is that even if it's a group of new entrepreneurs or newer entrepreneurs, a lot of times it's easy to think you can't get much value from that, but something I found is that everyone's coming from different places with different backgrounds and experiences, and while you may not be good in A, B, and C, they could be amazing at E and F, and they can help you there, and you can help them with what they're not great at, and everyone also has these experiences they're good at and someone else isn't, and the other person's the opposite, and that's where these masterminds really come to life and really start propelling each other's businesses forward.
Yep. No, I love that, man. I think that would be so exciting to have happen.
Definitely. So what is one habit you think the Young and Elite listeners should implement into their lives? What's a habit that's helped you the most?
One habit. I think if entrepreneurs would take 1 hour a day, or young, aspiring entrepreneurs take 1 hour a day, and they would just devote that, after work or before work or whatever, towards, reading about entrepreneurship, learning skills, connecting with other entrepreneurs, that if just that 1 hour a day they would dedicate towards that and block off all the time with friends. You're not going to go play ball with your friends or go, play video games or whatever. And you just said, hey, I'm committed to this every single day. Like amazing things would happen. And so I think just time blocking out time for kind of, entrepreneurial pursuits would be huge.
I think it's really big you said blocking out that time, because if you just shoot for it but don't block out and actually schedule that time, it's not going to happen. You're going to have to make time for your priorities.
Yeah, and here's the thing for like young entrepreneurs is the clock is ticking. Like if you're young and you're single, or maybe you're young and newly married but there's no kids yet and all that, like the clock is ticking and the door is closing. And it's not going to close all the way. It's going to get really tight for you to actually make the leap. And I've had some friends who, talk to me now and they're, 29, they've got a couple kids and they just talk about how they really wish they had become entrepreneurs and they want it now, but they've got to pay for all these expenses now. They've got to have great health insurance and it's just too hard to do it now. And they really regret that decision. And so I just think when you're young, like this is the time to be doing it. Like you have nothing to lose. Take huge risks and just block out the time and just, give the next 2 years of your life towards making this happen. And you'll never regret it again the rest of your life. And you'll always reap the rewards of that. But the clock is ticking.
Well, like you even demonstrated with the first business you said, is that it may not have worked out the way you wanted to. You invested a lot of time, but you learned a lot from that you were able to take into your next business, which was able to turn that one into a success. So it doesn't matter whether it fails or it doesn't actually. It's about whether you learn from it and can turn it into something successful. So there's really no reason why you shouldn't start a business while you're young and take that risk when, like you said, you don't have all those expenses and family and everything else to worry about.
Yeah, totally. I mean, when I was, young single guy, I got married a couple months ago, but worst case scenario, I lose all my money. I move back home to Kansas with my parents and I eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, 3 times a day. But I can't do that now. I've got a wife now. We've got expenses. We've got, a really nice, place that we're keeping up. And all of a sudden the expenses are piling up and it's just not the same as it was when I was a young guy. And so, not like I'm an old guy now, but when I was a single guy, it's just not the same at all. And so just know that, guys, now is the time to make this happen. Not next year, not later. Just now is the time.
Yeah, definitely. Now is definitely the time. So here's an analogy for you. I think this analogy helps out a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs because it's a situation I see a lot of them in. So here's the analogy. You have a shoestring budget. You're working full time, but you want to become self-employed within the next year. What business would you start and how would you start it?
I would start by talking to business owners. And so here's how I would do it now. Let's say I didn't even have any skills yet. I would start by asking business owners. I'd try to call business owners every single night and, network through people that I knew. And I would just say, hey, I just want to learn about your business. And I'm trying to find if there's any way I can help here or anything that really kind of needs to be done. And I would just start by being a really good listener, because at the end of the day, all entrepreneurship is finding a pain in the market and providing a solution to it. And so I think if you just have no idea, I would start by just listening, and maybe you hear them start to say similar things and you start to kind of go down a trail. Maybe they all say, for me, as I was doing this, they were all talking about how Facebook was something they really wanted to be involved in, but they had no idea how to do it. And somebody took their money last time they tried to do it, and they're not sure how to kind of get online. So as I was talking to business owners over and over, I'd realize that. And so I could ask more questions, say, well, tell me about, what have you done with Facebook before? Have you tried that? Do you want to try it? And basically, they just told me exactly what they wanted and exactly what they needed. And so then for me, the answer wasn't to go out and necessarily learn Facebook, although, now after 2 years, I actually know a lot about it and I can run pretty good Facebook ads. But I just went out there and found other people who knew Facebook ads. And I said, hey, listen, I've got this person who really wants Facebook advertising for their business. Can I have a chat with you and see if it would be a good fit for you to bring you on to do this project? And then, I found the guy who wanted it. I found the guy who could do it. And then I just kind of connected them in the middle and just made, 50% margin on that. I would sell these things for $1,500 a month. I'd, sell Facebook advertising $1,500 a month to a business. The contractor would pay me $750 a month, or I'd pay him $750 a month. And then I'd just kind of make $750 a month to just manage the relationship. And that's how I got started. And that was a really good way to do it. So I'd probably go do that again, to be honest with you, if I was doing this.
I love that. I think that's, in my opinion, at least in my experience, one of the biggest problems I had trying to start a business is that I would make something and then figure out if people wanted it after I made it. I love how you said you went out and actually talked to them, figured out what they wanted, and they very willingly told you what their problems were and what they needed, and you were able to go out and make that after you already knew what they wanted. You weren't trying to sell it to someone that didn't exist.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was talking to one of my friends the other day. My friend's really into hunting. I called him up. I'm always thinking of like new business ideas. And I said, dude, we need to start a hunting e-commerce store. And, he doesn't, know much or care much about entrepreneurship, but he was like, oh, really cool. Like that sounds really exciting. I'd love to do that. And he's like, what would we sell? I was like, well, we're going to sell duck calls. And then when people buy the duck call, on the next page, we're going to sell them duck call lanyards. And then they're going to buy that. And then on the next page, we're going to sell them a $30 a month membership site to be around all the other duck hunters. And I can drive Facebook ads to this and they'll buy it all. And what was funny was his first reaction was, okay, well, like, we need to get some duck calls manufactured then. We need to go to China and get like 10,000 duck calls in, all that. And I was thinking, no, dude, you got it all wrong. Like, that's way too much risk. I tell you what, let's go build the thing. Let's go start driving traffic at it. Let's go sell some duck calls. We'll just drive down to Walmart after we sell them. After the money's in my bank account, I'll go down to Walmart. I'll buy some duck calls. We'll mail them out. And we'll do that for a while until we actually figure out if people want this thing or not. Then we can figure out kind of the sourcing. So I just think people just make it too hard. I mean, you can just sell stuff and then figure out, how to deliver it after it's already sold.
Yeah, there's no better way of validating a business idea than having someone pay for a product and creating it afterwards when you already have the money there to make it with.
Yeah, tell us. I think we're going to try this thing here next week. I'm just going to build a real quick site. We're going to put some duck calls up there and run this thing. And then, if it sells, we'll drive to Walmart and figure out which duck calls we're going to sell them and, put them in a box and ship them off and figure it out from there.
Sounds like fun. All right, well, it is time for the rapid fire round. I will ask you 6 questions in rapid succession, and you tell us the first thing that comes to your mind. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, what is one goal you are trying to reach right now?
I'm trying to get our information business to $100,000 a month profit. And if I can do that, we're going to take that money and kind of invest into stage 2 of our business, which is to create software products. And so I think kind of an information business, training people, teaching courses, things like that, it's really good money, but I think it's a pretty disruptible industry. And so I want to generate enough cash to go start building software, which I think is a more long-term play.
I love it. What is your morning routine?
Morning routine, gosh, I'm really not, to be honest with you, like the routine guy. I mean, I've been working on this. That's kind of one of my goals, but I'm not, I wake up right now. My routine is basically this. I wake up, I chug 20 ounces of water, because I read that was good. I get in the shower, I go down, I make a nice cup of pour over coffee, and then after that, it's kind of a free for all. Sometimes I'll meditate, sometimes I'll pray, sometimes I'll start working, and we'll see kind of what happens after the coffee.
What is one book you would recommend to the Young and Elite listeners?
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
I love that book. All right, so you were given $100,000. You can't spend it on your current business and you can't start a new business with it. What would you buy?
Is this like a fun item?
Yeah, fun item. Anything that's not business related.
I'd buy a Tesla. I'd buy the Tesla Model S. That'd be cool. I really like Tesla. I really like what they stand for. So yeah, I'd go get a Tesla.
Nice. All right, and for the last question of the rapid fire round, is there any plug for your business that you'd like to share with the Young and Elite listeners? How can they find out more about the Entrepreneur Alliance?
Yeah, no, if you hear me talking about the Entrepreneur Alliance, if you love this idea and you really want help getting going, then go to ealliance.co. ealliance.co. I really don't like that domain name, by the way. We just bought it the other day. I think it's not my favorite here. So if it changes, then we'll redirect you from there. But go to ealliance.co and you'll be able to see some information about the Entrepreneur Alliance and go from there.
Nice. Well, Dave, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. I love your vision for the Entrepreneur Alliance, and I'm excited for it. I think it's going to do amazing things for young entrepreneurs everywhere. And as more information about that becomes available, I'll be sure to post that on the show notes page for this episode as well, which can be found at youngandelite.com. And if you've enjoyed this show, please just share it with your friends, rate and review on whatever platform you are listening to it on, and just help spread the awesome advice and insight shared by Young and Elite listeners, Young and Elite entrepreneurs on the show each and every week, just like Dave. But to finish out this awesome interview, I have two last questions for you, Dave. Who are you and how are you feeling?
I'm Dave Rogenmoser, and I'm feeling young and elite.
And that is the interview with Dave Rogenmoser. I hope you guys followed along closely and took lots of notes, because what Dave shared in this interview still really helps me with my business today. More episodes just like this are dropping every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. EST. Subscribe below to be notified when they are released, and I hope to see you guys there.